telling us who you are, where you live, what brings you here. That'd be good.
Okay. So thank you very much for allowing me to testify today. My name is Annika McCann. I'm a registered nurse and an herbalist in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And I've owned a CBD business since 2019. I make all my flowers myself, exclusively from organically grown, Vermont grown hemp flower. Nothing I make is intoxicating in any way, and all my products contain less than the current federal limit of 0.3% THC. When Trump signed legislation in November to reopen the federal government after the shutdown, the bill included a provision to redefine hemp and criminalize any hemp product containing less than 0.4 milligrams of THC per container, not per serving, per entire container. This legislation essentially bans most CBD products, whether they're intoxicating or not. It's not possible to manufacture full spectrum CBD products with a limit anywhere close to the federal limit of 0.4 milligrams per container. Full spectrum CBD, for those who don't know, is like naturally extracted hemp extract without anything chemically removed in the process. It's kind of like the whole milk of hemp extract. All hemp plants contain THC. The current legal definition of hemp in the US is cannabis containing less than 0.3% delta-9 THC. There are no hemp strains available that have no THC at all. A typical bottle of CBD oil, like this one, contains over 1,000 milligrams of CBD. An average dose of CBD is in the range of 10 to 60 milligrams. At typical THC to CBD ratios in hemp flower, a bottle of full spectrum CBD oil could only contain about 40 milligrams of CBD in the entire bottle in order to have a small enough amount of THC to be legal under the new legislation. That's a single dose of CBD for many people in a whole bottle. I would have to sell my CBD oil in a 2 milliliter bottle like this one in order for it to be federally compliant with the federal law. I'm sure you can see how impractical that would be.
That'd be like a one dose.
2 milliliter, yeah, one dose, yeah. And trying to put a label on there with all the required information, pretty impossible from a business perspective. This bottle of CBD oil contains about 38 milligrams of THC in the whole bottle. The Cannabis Control Board would consider this a non-intoxicating product if it contained less than 90 milligrams of THC. That's more than 200 times the THC limit of 0.4 milligrams per container in the new law. A member of the Senate Agriculture Committee asked why companies don't just remove the THC. It's a good question. There are plenty of THC-free products available, but it's widely recognized that these are not nearly as effective as full-spectrum products containing trace amounts of THC. Also, equipment that can remove THC from a hemp extract is very, very expensive, often in the tens of thousands of dollars, well out of reach of a tiny business like mine. Some cannabis lawyers are warning that even CBD isolate, which contains 0 THC, may become unavailable. CBD isolate would still be legal to sell, but may become illegal to manufacture due to the new strict THC limits on intermediates, which are hemp concentrates companies use to make products. So let's use milk as an analogy here. You're the Agricultural Committee, you must be familiar with milk. Imagine that whole milk in any form was illegal. Skim milk would be legal to sell, but milk comes out of the cow as it has whole milk, and anyone possessing whole milk, even dairy farmers, would be breaking the law. It would be impossible to process whole milk into skim milk while following the law. Similarly, it would be impossible to legally manufacture CBD isolate because the starting material, hemp concentrate, would contain well over 0.3 milligrams of THC per container. A few federal bills have been introduced which would delay the ban or create reasonable hemp regulations, but as far as I know, none have made it out of committee. If the legislation kicks in as planned this November, all of my products will become illegal Schedule I drugs, more illegal than cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl, which are all Schedule II drugs. This is my best-selling product, a CBD Arnica body butter. There's no possible way it could get anybody high. Does it really make sense that this should be more illegal than cocaine? My hope is that the federal ban will be fixed, but as time goes by, I'm less and less optimistic that this will happen. I'm testifying here today in hopes that Vermont will enact legislation which would at least allow me to sell my products within Vermont, even if interstate sales are prohibited. Unfortunately, S323, as passed by the Senate, would make all of my products illegal, even though they're not intoxicating. S323 makes multiple references to the federally defined THC limit. If Vermont uses the federal limits for hemp and hemp products, and the federal hemp ban takes effect as planned, you will be driving most CBD producers and processors out of business, as their products would be illegal. Section 4B of S 323 states that any hemp product that is not lawful in interstate commerce is excluded from the definition of a hemp product. This would likely include almost all CBD products currently available. I urge you to reconsider. Please don't use the federal THC limits for Vermont legislation, and instead allow the Cannabis Control Board to set limits. They know what they're doing. There are roughly 20 to 30 CBD businesses in Vermont making and selling non-intoxicating CBD products, and thousands of Vermont residents who rely on CBD to manage medical conditions. Many of these customers would have to resort to using riskier medications like opioids to manage their chronic pain. Please do the right thing and keep CBD accessible to Vermonters, and don't force small businesses out of business.
All right, thank you very much. We have some questions. Representative Nelson.
All right, I got a few. First question. Does a relative of yours sit behind me down in the well?
A relative? No,
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
I can, right,
No.
from Montpelier.
No,
Okay, so you grow your hemp and you harvest it, it's below 0.04 now?
I don't grow hemp myself.
Okay.
I'm not a farmer. I live in town, so I don't have land.
Okay,
I buy from Vermont farmers. Yes.
and you buy the raw hemp?
Yes.
Already dried down?
Yep.
And then you process it, you don't have to pull away any kind of a distillate, your level's good enough
Correct.
at the beginning, okay?
Yep.
And what's your level at now? Is it below 0.04?
So it's below 0.3%. That's the current cutoff. And mine is a bit below that. Yeah, I'd have to look at my lab results, but it's like between 0.1 and 0.2 usually.
0.3. Right, yeah, the McConnell rule, McConnell's the one that
Yeah.
did that to.
Yeah, that was the 2018 Farm Bill that set that 0.3%.
But McConnell's the one that put it in the big beautiful bill to protect this bourbon, Kentucky
Yes.
bourbon people.
Yes, he switched
Much to the
sides.
chagrin of Rand Paul.
Yes.
Okay.
So what did the Senate do in 323 that made your product illegal? And hey, I'd love for you to be able to sell your product everywhere in the country.
So the line that's the most problematic for me is in section 4B, where it says that anything that is not lawful in interstate commerce is not considered a hemp product. It would be considered a marijuana or cannabis product. And the federal legislation makes most CBD products illegal for interstate sales. So that would, with this language in there, they would be illegal in Vermont also. And all the language that says it's, which in multiple places, it's using the federally defined THC concentration level. So if that language stays in this bill, then we'll all go out of business.
Or your product could have to be sold through a dispensary.
Right, I would have to get a cannabis license. And which I could do. It's very, very expensive, although the fees in this for hemp processors are very expensive too. And yeah, that might be enough. Yeah, about a quarter of my sales are in Vermont, which is about $20,000 a year. And with the fees that are in here, those would cost me about $3,000. It's about 15% of my gross sales. So that itself might not make my business viable. It's those fees.
Thank you for that.
Representative Buzzell.
Yeah, I'm just curious in terms of the things that you brought in, what is the purpose of the products that you make? Is it like pain relief or some other thing?
A good question. So for taking CBD internally, the most common reasons people use that are for pain, inflammation, anxiety, and sleep. But there's research for all kinds of conditions because it works throughout the body. So it's used for a really, really broad range of conditions. The topical ones are for essentially for pain. So I have a lot of people with, chronic joint pain or headaches or, all kinds of pain, but pretty much exclusively for pain.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
Just trying to get some context. So when you buy hemp from a Vermont farmer?
Mhm.
When you buy it, does it have, it's already been tested for a certain level of
Yes.
THC? So you could buy one with less or more depending.
Yes.
And then I was wondering, like you're talking about concentrate, CBD concentrates.
Mhm.
So potentially you could recreate this in a lab, right? What you do, if you bought a CBD concentrate, like no THC in it. I'm just wondering
Theoretically,
how
yes.
expensive this would be if you sort of, did a complete, sort of molecular, imitation of what you do.
Yeah, so I've certainly considered that for the future. It would really not, I don't feel good about that. So there's basically CBD can be divided into 3 different categories. Full spectrum CBD is kind of as nature made it. Nothing has been chemically removed. Broad spectrum CBD has had the THC removed, but retains all the other compounds. And CBD isolate has had everything removed except the CBD itself. So I wouldn't be able to make my products myself or from the hemp. I'd have to buy a broad spectrum extract, which I could do, but the products are not going to be as effective. And as a, an herbalist, I like to make things myself. And I wouldn't feel like I'd be making a product. I'd just be mixing ingredients together.
Like your milk analogy, you go like buying butter, fat and water and whey. And
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's, I might decide to do that. I don't like it. I'd rather go out of business. The products are, there's research out there that shows that if it has just that little trace of THC in there, it works much, much, much better at lower dosages too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Representative Bartholomew.
How often do you actually have to do testing? I assume you do batches and then bottle it. I'm just wondering.
Yep, I do an initial test and then I dilute it to the amount that I want and I test it again. And then I add some concentrate to some of it because I make different concentrations of products. So each step gets another potency test.
So,
No, I send it to a lab.
so what does that cost?
Depending on the lab, $40 or $50 each time.
So are you doing big batches? I'm wondering about variability too,
Mhm.
from batch to batch.
So I make about 4 gallons of CBD oil at a time. So it's about 5 times a year I do that. And
So
so,
batches are big.
yeah.
You see a lot of variation from,
Not a lot, no. If I switch strains of hemp, then yes, there'll be some variation there. But if I'm using the same batch of hemp, my oil will be very, very similar.
Have you historically had to pay any fees to the state?
Yes, I was licensed by the Department of Agriculture and when they ran the hemp program and then it switched to the Cannabis Control Board, they licensed me and I did pay fees, but I can't remember how much they were. I tried to find out for this purpose and I went through my old checkbooks, but I couldn't find out how much I paid.
So not enough that it felt like it was a burden or?
No, it wasn't. And now I pay 0 because now we don't have a hemp program anymore. So I'm paying nothing. But yeah, the fees in here are $500 for a license and then $75 for every single product. Is really where it really adds up.
That would be under the bill, that would be to the Cannabis Control Board.
Let's see what it says in here.
And we can
Fees section.
ask somebody who would have the information. What
Okay.
it used to be too.
There we go, yeah. Yeah, the following fees shall apply to each license or registration applicant. It doesn't really reference the Cannabis Control Board, but I assume, yeah, I don't know who I'd pay them to.
Did somebody else have another question?
Where are your products available to be purchased now?
I sell online. I sell at St. Johnsbury Farmers Market and the Littleton Farmers Market, and at craft fairs and in about a dozen stores in Vermont, New Hampshire, Minnesota, I think that's it.
Representative Burke, question.
So just to help me understand, when did the hemp portion of the cannabis advisory board, when did that program stop? Do you know roughly what year?
Maybe a year ago.
So it was
It was fairly recently. Yeah. I mean, I still had my license on paper, which was not expired when that decision came down.
And so in 323, the idea is to kind of reinstate.
Yes.
It's program with hemp.
Yeah, I spoke to someone at the Cannabis Control Board several months ago in the early fall, maybe, or actually, maybe it was after November, after the federal legislation went through, just hoping that Vermont would be able to create a program so that I would be able to sell products in Vermont, not in a dispensary, to kind of have if we had a two-tiered, like an intoxicating level and a non-intoxicating level that could be treated differently, so that hemp CBD makers wouldn't have to jump through all the same hoops that a intoxicating cannabis manufacturer does.
And under the old program, you were able to sell yourself.
Mhm.
And is that the intent of the new program as far as you are aware, to also be able to sell direct to consumers yourself?
Well, that's actually a confusing thing in here. It says under the purpose of 323. One of the purposes is to position growers and processors of non-intoxicating hemp products to take advantage of national market opportunities that may exist, which would be non-existent after November. So I thought that was an odd way to have in a Vermont bill, if there are no national opportunities.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping for is a statewide opportunity, not a national opportunity.
There may be two different things happening here. One is, given the national environment that we're in today, what can we do to at least make it easier for you to sell product in Vermont going forward? We couldn't help you in Littleton, I don't think.
No.
You could continue to sell in St. Johnsbury.
Mhm.
But then I think there's also
But
possibly.
not online, right?
Not interstate.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, it would make my business a lot smaller, turn it more into a side hustle than it's my main source of
I
income
think
now.
your question and to your point that perhaps the Senate, it's not our bill, but the Senate bill is imagining a world where that federal law gets reverted back to the way things were. So that we'll have to better understand what the intent is there, because it does seem like it's asking for something that just couldn't happen
Mhm.
in today's federal world.
Yeah.
Other questions? John?
So to help me understand just CBD, in like full spectrum, your sort of full raw milk analogy, how many cannabinoids would be in that?
So there's over 100 cannabinoids that have been identified. We don't know very much about most of them, but THC and CBD are the big ones that have had a lot of research on them. And then there's CBC, CBG, CBN. There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
CBD and THC are both considered cannabinoids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There are a lot more, right?
Yes. And then there's lots of other compounds too, terpenes and bioflavonoids and all this stuff. And everything kind of works in synergy to have an effect on the body.
And depending on what varietals of hemp, sometimes you'll
Mhm.
get a different result in what you create.
Yes, for what I make, that's much more important on the cannabis end with like different, effects on the psyche and stuff with different terpenes and stuff. So once I make my oil, I'm really just looking at the cannabinoid content.
But not just CBD, there are other cannabinoids that you're
In trace amounts.
want them in.
They're in quite small amounts.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, any other questions? We have another witness who's joined us on Zoom, and Amy Lenz, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Would you, if you're ready, transition over to you. I think you've been hearing some of the questions and some of the testimony, and we're going to stick on the same subject here. Your business is Vermont Organic Solutions, is that right?
It is, yes.
And is it the same, are you in the same line of products?
Yes, I make a line of topical products.
Great, well, thank you for joining us, and if you've got anything you'd like to share with the committee, we're happy to hear that, and then we may have some questions for you too.
Sounds good. So I'm Amy Lems. My company is Vermont Organic Solutions, and we make a couple dozen different CBD topical products, as well as a conventional line of non-CBD products. And I'm also a medical patient. I am a former manufacturer of THC products and stepped away from the market after 2 years of making $100,000 in revenue, but not being able to profit or pay myself at all with the current regulations that are in place and with things like 280E tax implications at the federal level. It's very difficult to sustain a business with what's going on. I work for Vermont Cannabis, excuse me. I work as a board member for the Vermont Growers Association. I'm also, pardon me. I'm also wanting to represent John DiGiuseppe from Lily Hill Farms, who is also a CBD manufacturer of products. His products are consumable as well as topical. And he's unable to be here, but he did ask me to read a letter that I would like to read because I think it has a lot of good information. And if you would permit me to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. It starts, I'm writing this as owner of Lily Hill CBD, a Vermont hemp business I've owned and operated since 2016. I respectfully urge you to maintain Vermont's current hemp rules and refrain from adopting any new state level policy changes. Any such changes would immediately put my small business out of operation. Instead, I ask that Vermont allow the upcoming federal changes to take effect or potentially be delayed until 2028 under pending federal legislation before considering any state action. Since 2016, Lily Hill has sold hemp-derived products that contain only trace amounts of THC. These products are definitively non-psychoactive, have never been marketed or perceived as intoxicating, and have been sold with 0 complaints or incidents over the past 10 years. Despite the strong safety and compliance record, the new policy proposals under current consideration would reclassify or restrict products like mine, effectively putting Lily Hill CBD out of business and eliminating a responsible, long-standing Vermont enterprise. Enacting these changes now would cause unnecessary harm to small businesses like mine that have operated safely and transparently under the current rules for a decade. With federal legislation already introduced to delay implementation of the new national hemp definition until 2028, there is even less reason for Vermont to rush forward with its own restrictive measures. I fully echo and support the testimony of Amy Lems on all points related to hemp regulation. Her perspective as a licensed manufacturer and advocate for Vermont's small hemp and cannabis business aligns closely with my own experience. I respectfully ask that you oppose any bills, rules, or amendments that would alter Vermont's existing hemp framework at this time. Preserving the status quo will protect small businesses like mine from being forced to close. Maintain consumer access to safe, non-intoxicating hemp products and allow time for the measured, informed response once the federal timeline is finalized. Thank you for your time and for your service to the people of Vermont. I'm happy to provide additional information about my products, business history, or any data from my decade of compliant operation. Sincerely, John DiGiuseppe. As he mentioned, we are aligned in how we're looking at this. And one thing that he did not mention that I know he is alignment with me, we are absolutely for the regulation of intoxicating hemp products. We fully realize that they've escaped via a loophole and have been able to run amok, causing damage to our current legal adult use industry and potentially damaging small businesses like mine and like John's. I make several products. One of the concerns that I have is if the CCB takes these over and adopts the parameters that are currently in the federal guideline. I have a 4-ounce jar of an arnica and CBD product that has 3,000 milligrams of CBD in it. That means by the 2018 Farm Bill, that 0.3% multiplied out, my 4-ounce jar has 9 grams of THC in it. It's 9 grams. It's a topical product. The idea that anyone would grab a spoon and eat an entire 4-ounce jar of a topical product to catch a buzz on 9 grams of THC is incomprehensible. People are not using our products to get high. They don't have psychoactive properties. The amount that they would have to eat of them would literally make them sick with the other ingredients in there. Arnica is not something you want to ingest. It is effective and has been effective for many, many years for relieving topical localized pain. All of my products are topicals. I don't sell any edibles at this point, mainly because of what's going on. I want to be able to preserve my small company's viability. And if the state of Vermont and the CCB implement the kind of regulations, rules, and licensure that they're talking about, the cost of my products will skyrocket. And even if the federal guidelines, federal ban goes into play in November, it will jack the price of my and any other hemp product manufacturers' products way up there. If there's a delay and the ban doesn't happen nationally in November, then any other state that has hemp manufacturing product makers there will have a huge advantage over any Vermont hemp product, because they won't have the extra licensure, the testing requirements, the registration requirements that we will have and that we have to factor in as a cost of production of our products. I'm a small manufacturer. My batches don't exceed 3 dozen units in each batch. We're really tiny. So the idea that we could scale manufacturing and test a single very large batch doesn't gel. It doesn't work. I am 100% for the regulation of intoxicating hemp products, but sweeping non-intoxicating hemp manufacturers into this is going to put us out of business.
All right, thank you, Amy. Let's see if there are any questions.
Just a question for the committee. How it seems like the best case scenario here is that all the CBD processors are only going to have a Vermont market. That's best case scenario. Is that
If the federal,
doesn't change or goes into
Yeah.
effect, right? That's the best we can do for them.
Yes. But with an industry, with the hemp industry itself being a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the now intoxicating hemp industry, $1 billion industry, that kind of money is not going to just walk away from fighting for their businesses and their lines. And so the idea that the hemp ban is going to go into effect in November seems fairly remote under those circumstances. I believe that they will put it off, that they will want to talk about things, and they will want to do this hopefully correctly. But if this ban goes into if the ban doesn't go into effect and in November, and the state of Vermont takes over regulation of the hemp industry, I've run the numbers. I know what I'm looking at. I have an MBA. My business is going to close. That's where we're sitting with things.
Thank you, Jim. Does your hemp all come from in-state?
It does not.
Yours does not?
It does not, because things were so new here and people didn't have the business aspect of it under control. I sourced my CBD from the West Coast. They've got a 6-year advance on us. And the company that I deal with is USDA certified organic. And my CBD that I get from them comes with a COA. And I have my products tested for correctness. If I say I've got 3,000 milligrams in that jar, there's 3,000 milligrams in that jar. And I test to show my proficiency as a manufacturer. But the idea that we would have to test every single batch of this, it's untenable. We can't factor that into the cost of our product.
Attica, does your hemp come from mid-state or out of state?
All my hemp comes from Vermont.
From Vermont, okay. Would it be possible, Amy, for your hemp to be sourced in-state?
Yes. I at this point, I just have had a relationship with this processor. I trust them. The quality of their product is really, really high.
Mhm.
And I want to continue to use the full spectrum organic product that they put
But-
out.
Will you be able to get that if the federal rules change or have changed? Will you still be able to get that legally from Oregon or Washington State to Vermont, or will that shipment of that across state lines be illegal?
The ban would make that illegal if the
So-
ban is enacted in November, if.
So if you could use a Vermont product, Vermont hemp, and make your product such as Attica does,
It can happen, but there are other regulations that are at issue here, including the amount of milligrams per serving and the amount per jar. So the reason I was making a point about that 4-ounce jar with 3,000 milligrams in that is it's got 9 grams of THC because it's that 0.3%. And
Yeah.
what the CCB and Vermont are wanting to do is to make that not legal. So I can't have that much in my product. And Gabe, the attorney that works with the CCB, suggested, well, she can use an isolate. I can use an isolate. That would make my product much less effective. As you heard previously, it's the entourage effect. It's the fact that they work in synergy with each other. This is very well known. There's a lot of research on this. And so if I was forced to make a product, fine with CBD from Vermont, not a problem, but I want to still use a full spectrum. An isolate will not give the same results. We already know this. And so why would I spend the money to create a product that won't work as well as the one I'm creating now? I already know this. There's no point in wasting that money.
Representative O'Brien.
So Amy, just to be clear, you predict that the ban won't happen because there's a lot of money there. And you would like Vermont to do what? To give you, whatever business advantage. You don't.
I would like to see intoxicating hemp separated from non-intoxicating hemp. The concern that people have, the reason Mitch McConnell put that in the bill to reopen the government was because of the loophole that allowed for intoxicating hemp. I get it, and I support the regulation of any intoxicating hemp products. I think that they should be swept into the adult market and not a secondary market created, and they should be regulated as an intoxicating product. All of this, it comes from the same plant. The difference is one is hemp, one is cannabis based on the amount of THC in the product. What these companies are doing is they're taking CBD into a lab and they're separating it out so they can get as much THC as they want. And it's not a normal cannabis Delta 9 THC. It's one of these D8, D9, D10 products. So absolutely regulate that for many reasons, including safety, but to regulate the non-intoxicating hemp products that are being used mostly topically, it doesn't make sense. We are currently regulated via, if people have a problem with any topical product that they use, they contact the FDA and they say, hey, I've had a rash from this and this is a problem, and the FDA investigates it. There's no current chemical regulatory board, so any company of any size can put any ingredient that they want into a product as long as they label it and disclose what's in it, etc. So we have current regulations. We are complying with current regulations. We are still struggling with banking being a problem, payment processing being a problem because there's no regulation of cannabis at the federal level. Banking institutions and payment processing are all giving small companies that sell CBD products a really hard time. They are price gouging us for the service of processing a payment, if they will even process a payment. At one point, I had one of the payment processors stop sending me the money and I had to get my attorney involved. They capped over $6,000 of sales from my website and would get absolutely no reason or you couldn't even talk to anyone. It was all automated responses. So we are already struggling to survive in this market. We want this market to be a regulated market, but a reasonably regulated market, one that allows us to compete with each other, to compete with other manufacturers in other states, and to live in Vermont and still do that.
Would there be a way for the CCB then to have two tracks, one for the THC hemp, and one for your products?
The CCB getting involved with and regulating the topical non-intoxicating hemp products is the problem. They want us to pay money to be licensed. That's another fee. They want us to have all of our products tested. I have a couple dozen different products. They want us to have them all registered. That's a yearly fee, etc. And then any other possible regulations, I don't know if you're very familiar with the packaging issue, but that has been a huge, huge problem and cost for manufacturers to deal with. The non-plastic, it was a great idea, but in theory, but in practice, it's actually brought more plastic to the state of Vermont, not less. So yes, they could, but if they do, I already know I'm out. I can't incur those extra fees and costs.
Okay, not seeing any other hands here, and I did see a moment ago, Caroline, and I know that we had invited somebody from rural Vermont. Just want to be sure if Caroline's still here, if she wanted to add anything, but maybe not. Okay,
Can I add one comment?
thank you, Patricia. Yes, Annika.
So I totally agree with Amy about the intoxicating hemp products should be classified separately from non-intoxicating products. The only reason this federal ban has taken place and multiple states are also writing legislation to ban hemp, the only reason that is happening is because of the intoxicating hemp products. Those aren't much of a problem in Vermont because we have legalized recreational cannabis, but in a lot of states, they're taking these Franken-cannabinoids. They're using these chemical conversions in labs, which, the people who wrote the 2018 Farm Bill had no idea that was going to be a possibility, but they figured it out. And so there's this, glut of these intoxicating hemp products, which are unregulated, largely untested, packaged to mimic candy and stuff. Amy and I want nothing to do with that. We both agree those should be regulated. I think I agree with her. They should be bundled into the recreational cannabis type of framework instead of being freely available at any gas station. But to lump non-intoxicating products in with intoxicating ones is just a huge overreach.
You have contacts in other states where recreational cannabis has been legalized, Massachusetts or New York, to know whether they're looking at anything similar?
I don't have contacts, but I keep up with the legislation in different states. So several states have banned CBD products with levels similar to the federal level. Yeah. So it's definitely an issue in states.
Okay, good. Well, thank you both very much for coming in. I think we'll have to continue the conversation. We'll take a break for the moment. And then after the break, Bradley's been listening in, and I think we wanted to have him just walk us again through the language in the bill. And then maybe with this context, it'll be a little easier for us to understand. So thank you very much.
Can I stay and listen?
Absolutely.